Change course. Set thrusters to full.
God! Jesus. At least you guys died a cool death, you know? By alien giant laser cannon. I want to go out that way. Hey, hi, hello, everybody, and welcome back. We've got some more Subnautica content here for you today, and this time it is a full timeline by Lapis. Now, we just finished our Below Zero playthrough, and obviously, if you've seen any bit of my gameplay, I tend to skip a lot of the PDA stuff. I just kind of play the game and let it go as smooth as I want it to be, make sure I don't stop to read too many documents, which means we miss out on a few things here and there. With that being the case, Subnautica, the original, was one of my favorite games I've ever played, and Below Zero had some magic moments to it as well, so I wanted to learn more about it. We've got the lore compacted here into one 42-minute video, so let's wait no further. Press play and check it on out.
What's the first thing you think of when you hear the word Subnautica? I'll give you 5 seconds to answer.
Water. Lots of water. Less water? Ton of water.
Up.
Sorry.
Chances are you probably said either the environments, the creatures, the leviathans especially, the technology, and all the fancy jazz in between. What I bet most of you didn't say was the surprisingly deep lore of Subnautica. And I mean, to be fair, it makes sense if you didn't say that. But I've always been pretty intrigued by Subnautica's lore. So today, in preparation for Subnautica 2, which is probably going to expand the universe even more, I'm going to go through the entire timeline of Subnautica, Subnautica Below Zero, and try to explain as much as I can about the universe and what goes on in the history of the games.
Is Subnautica 2 already, I guess I could look this up, but is Subnautica 2 supposed to be put onto a different planet? Or is it, like, I thought that's the like, what is Subnautica? Because I thought 4546b is the planet, and Subnautica is what they bestowed upon it as a name. So I assumed 2 was going to return back to this planet, but just maybe not so much in the crater-esque area that we are currently in with the Aurora, you know?
Obviously, there are going to be heavy spoilers for both games in the franchise, so I highly recommend you play both of these and go through their story, then come back to this video.
Great games. Often, real quick, Subnautica, obviously 10 out of 10 game, one of my favorite games I've ever played, especially on stream, magical through and through, loved it. Below Zero, people always ask, should I buy that game? I think so. If you like Subnautica and you want a smaller, it's probably about a third of the normal playthrough of the entire game. It's a lot more streamlined, like, hey, go here, go here, go here, do this, do this, do this. But there's some quality of life things. There's still some amazing magical moments. It's still a very good game. You just go into it with the expectation of playing about maybe a third to half as long, and some of the things, quality of life like Prawn Suit, just not being quite as good, but there's also more places to explore. So I would recommend it if you're okay with a shorter game, and by shorter I still say it's like 20 hours or so. It's not quite as expansive with the creatures and whatnot, but trust me, it's still a good time. It's still Subnautica through and through, and a lot of them, like well, I guess if you haven't played it yet, I don't want to spoil too much, but if you're watching this, you probably don't care about the spoilers. There's some cool Leviathans, so.
Y'all got that? Let's dive in then.
4546b.
We begin our journey around 1,000 years before the events of the first game, during what I am presuming to be the 13th and 14th centuries, which I'm basing off the ancient earth blade we find in the primary containment facility, which is stated to be from around the 13th century. Anyways, we are following the Architects, an ancient, heavily advanced civilization which were so damn smart and tech-savvy that they've completely evolved past their need for their evolutionary bodies, and instead choose to navigate space-time in conjunction with mobile biomechanical storage media. These extremely advanced aliens have created technologies like phase gates, the ability to upload their consciousness to computers, and teleportation. So yeah, these guys were pretty smart.
Yeah,
we get
super
that now.
Cool too.
So during a routine expansion of their empire, they come across a currently unknown planet that holds an extremely deadly pathogen that will one day come to be known as the Kara bacterium. But I'm sure that won't be an issue for this super advanced civilization that has quite literally evolved past the need for their own bodies. They've probably dealt with this kind of thing before and have many set precautions in order to stop this bacterium from decimating their civilization. Oh wait, this bacterium is actually decimating their civilization. Yeah, the bacterium made it off-world and into the Architects' empire, infecting and killing 143 billion architects throughout their core worlds.
Holy hell. God! Which is crazy because of how many there are that could fight against that. From what I know from Below Zero, it's kind of Alan's fault, which is an insane weight to carry. If you've played Below Zero at all, you know that Alan, while those seemingly cold and disconnected from like emotions and whatnot, he's got this weight that he carries with him. I didn't realize it was, okay, maybe I'm thinking he's not entirely responsible for all of those deaths, but if he is, Oh my, it's a huge number.
And by the way, this is only confirmed deaths. Just saying. With their species now teetering on the edge of extinction, the architects begin setting up research outposts on distant planets, hoping to study and find a cure for the Kara. It is on one of these research outpost planets that our story begins. The architects arrive on planet 4546b, located in the Ariadne arm of an unknown galaxy.
Okay, so I'm already misunderstanding it because they're not originally from this. That makes sense.
There, they begin constructing multiple facilities in a long dormant volcanic crater to begin studying the Kara bacterium. This of course includes the disease research facility to test the bacterium on the native species, the quarantine enforcement platform to shoot down any incoming or outgoing craft should shit go sideways, and the alien thermal plant in order to harvest the planet's natural thermal energy as cheap, easy power. The disease research facility is also where the architects begin building warpers, biomechanical robotic creatures created from combining tons of off-world species with their own technology to create programmable guards and hunter-killers. They also build some caches, a fabricator base, and a phase gate in Sector 0, a frozen continent on the other side of the planet.
Speaking of warpers, I didn't realize the reason they're so chill early on in the playthrough of the regular Subnautica gameplay, and they don't attack you because you don't have the infected as like rampant through your body, the infection as rampant through your body. But as you start to get more and more infected, they attack you more, which makes so much sense as to why I thought they were so chill episode 2 way back then, and then episode like 12, 13, I'm running scared for my life every time I hear a wow noise.
This will be important later, okay? Just trust me. The architect research mission is being led by Al Ann, an esteemed architect scientist who has made many scientific contributions that his species admired. Okay, cool. So we got a high-profile research mission being led by a well-admired and esteemed alien scientist. I'm sure all the bright minds in this mission won't make any fatal miscalculations that will lead to the bacterium breaking out and causing a major mass extinction. Anyways, while studying and testing the bacterium on many different native life forms, they discover that a species of Leviathan known as the Sea Emperor Leviathan is producing an enzyme known as enzyme 42 that is effective at stopping the Kara bacterium and could be turned into a cure. Thus, they construct a final facility in the depths of the volcanic crater known as the Primary Containment Facility, where they bring a nursing Sea Emperor Leviathan and its 7 eggs to study them. Now is a very good time to mention that the Sea Emperor Leviathan is capable of telepathically communicating with other creatures, and is also very old. Right now it's around 1,600 years old. So while she can produce enzyme 42 by herself, it's a crappier version that only delays the bacterium. So Al Ann and the other architects set their sights on her 7 babies, which they think when hatched will produce a much better enzyme for combating the bacterium. Alright, so they get to work, but are unable to make the eggs hatch. They dissect one of the eggs, but the baby Leviathan dies during the process, making its enzymes unusable. It took one of the other eggs for testing, but still couldn't elicit any hatching response from it. This is because the eggs require another substance known as hatching enzymes, which requires plants from numerous biomes that are the Leviathan's natural habitats. The Sea Emperor tries to communicate to the architect.
I don't even think I connected that, where you're getting a specific plant from each Leviathan's environment, their little biomes. I didn't even put that together. I was just grabbing shit everywhere, and some of the stuff I already had before, so I never had to go get it again after I learned about the enzyme.
To tell them this, but they can't hear it. I'm gonna chalk it up to the architects being cybernetic biomechanical beings. Because of this, their attempts to force the hatching fail, and they attach the remaining 5 eggs to an incubator whilst they figure out their next move. Needing a way to elicit a hatching response from the Emperor eggs, Alan notices that another Leviathan named the Sea Dragon is quite closely related to the Sea Emperor, which makes him think that if he incubates their eggs, he can figure out what can make the Emperor babies tick. Disobeying the directive from the greater architect network, Alan steals Sea Dragon eggs from a breeding adult and takes them to the disease research facility in the Lost River. Whilst Alan's theory wasn't wrong, this move pisses off the Sea Dragon parent, of course, and it tracks down its eggs to the facility.
They are floating, swimming AC-130s, and you can never convince me otherwise. If you kill 11 peepers in a row, a Sea Dragon spawns.
It immediately attacks the facility by ramming into the exterior anchor cables and causing the facility to begin sinking. Breaches in the wall of the complex begin releasing the Kara bacterium into the environment, infecting numerous species. I cannot begin to express how unbelievably stupid Alan was for this. The architects were obviously on the planet for a long while in order to build all of these facilities, including 2 right smack dab in the lava zone, meaning Alan and the other architects were well aware of how aggressive the Sea Dragons were.
Okay, so I do know that Al missed, like, he completely disregarded orders, got the Sea Dragon egg. I know how he did that, or know that he did it, but I guess I never connected that it's what was responsible for the other bases being so torn apart, whatever. I knew what he did, but I guess visualizing it in a video like this is actually really important to further understand just how fucked up he did.
Stealing eggs from an aggressive carnivorous Godzilla-sized underwater lizard that breathes fire has absolutely got to be the dumbest possible route the architects could have taken. As far as we're aware, the facility doesn't have any defenses besides warpers and probably some generic laser rifles, meaning Alan was beyond dumb to bring the eggs here and not to a facility further away from the lava zones.
In his defense, his people are dying. There are billions of people probably at this point that are dying. He is in a rush. He is feeling pressured to make moves in order to heal things. And so it's not like this was some random experiment that just went haywire and, you know, had no overbearing consequences to this stuff. It was somebody trying to save their species. So you can cut him a little bit of slack. Yes, he fucked up, but if it works, think of how many billions would have been saved.
Seriously, if he ever gets in contact with his species again, they should unironically delete his consciousness as punishment for completely screwing over their best shot at a cure and causing the near extinction of their species. Rant over. The sea dragon, being severely injured by the attack, dies shortly afterward in another area of the Lost River, and the bacterium begins infecting everything on the planet. So the architects initiate a planetary quarantine, they begin evacuating, they activate the quarantine enforcement platform, and order all of their warpers to begin killing creatures infected with the Kara. Some upload their minds to the many caches around the crater, while many others just succumb to the bacterium. Alan, meanwhile, gets his consciousness uploaded to a very special super storage media in a cube in Sector 0. As for why, I have no idea. He doesn't deserve this special storage since he completely fucked over this operation. Anyways, yeah, the Kara bacterium spreads across...
Would that also not... What if they did it because that's their imprisonment? Hey, you fucked up. You live here with the consequences. Like, your consciousness will live on this planet, this corrupted planet, infected planet, and you will do nothing about it. Because they never assumed that somebody would be insane enough to just go to find these bases and I could download the consciousness to themselves. Like that's probably outside of what they thought would be, you know, capable grounds for any other species out there, considering this planet is now going to be dying. Like infection is spreading like no other.
Across the planet and initiates a mass extinction event, killing off many species, including every last wild sea emperor leviathan, after destroying their food source. The survivors will be forced to rapidly adapt to the extinction event, which is helped by the sea emperor training peepers to carry her shitty enzyme 42 to the surface, helping life at least survive in the crater surrounding her prison. After this, it is presumed that the architects just went extinct, although maybe some populations survive somehow, waiting for a cure to be brought back.
I ate so many peepers, I should have been invincible to that thing. I should have been, anywhere I go, my aura just eliminates the infection.
Following the demise of the architects, we are now going to cut to the near future of humanity. A future in which humankind is beginning to spread across the galaxy.
That's us, lock in!
Earth remains the center of humankind in space until something changes everything. The discovery of phase gate travel. This method of faster than light travel enables humanity to expand much further than ever before. The people on these distant colonies soon declared their independence from Earth, which we'll refer to as the Sol Transco from now on. The discovery of phase gate travel was followed closely by an event known as the Expansion, which is implied by the PDAs to be a massive conflict between many nations in space. This conflict was egged on by a mega corporation known as Alterra, who began life as a defense manufacturer in the mid-22nd century. Alterra supplied arms to all sides during the war, in order to profit from it and grow its workforce, which by the way is horrendously fucked up. They literally egged on a galactic war which probably killed millions of people by supplying arms to the warring countries. Anyways, Alterra later threatens to cease its arms trade, which leads to a turning point in the expansion and eventually the end of the conflict. It is here that 37 governing entities, including Alterra...
Is there a creative mode in this? How do they get these visuals? There is a creative mode, isn't there? You can just float? Is it like Minecraft where you just float? You can just... Because I could have used this for so many thumbnails. This is the last Subnautica video of the main series storylines, and I'm just finding this out.
Alterra and Sol signed the charter and transform into trans governments. This also establishes the trans-system federation between the transgovs in order to enforce the charter. With this, humanity continues to expand across the stars.
W conquering the galaxy. Torturing killing, murdering every peeper in existence.
We're now cutting to around 3 decades prior to the crash of the Aurora, a vessel known as the Mercury II owned by the Sol Transgov, who are in control of Earth's solar system as implied by both its name and the Mercury II sharing a name with one of our planets, and who are also implied by some cut data entries to be a fully communist government with a flat social structure, common goods to all of their citizens, and no internal currency. So yeah, it looks like Earth in this universe is controlled by a fully communist government. Anyways, the Mercury II is returning to Sol, being commanded by Captain Diana with numerous crew members on board. We'll go for some of the important ones real quick. Elliot.
See, I didn't even know they went this far into all the stories for this. And I like, these are the things I'm talking about, by the way, people. That's a little like oxygen thing that you can take while you're swimming underwater. It's a very good quality of life change that also fits the Subnautica like lore based off of the ecosystem, the environment, the biomes, all having these like beautiful plants that supply oxygen to you. Makes diving much better and more enjoyable rather than up, down, every 15 seconds. I didn't realize these stories went so far back into explain every single bit of what these ships all was. So this is what I'm saying. I missed out on a lot of PDA data, not even just because I didn't want to read it sometimes. I just forgot a lot where it's at. It's really hard to navigate that PDA thing and keep a consistent a timeline of what's going on. So thank you, Lapis. Thank you. I appreciate you putting this all together for me. It's beautiful.
A xenolinguist, Stephanos, a nice Greek guy who is a ship's engineer, and Yasmin. While on his way through the 4546 system, the Mercury II passes by planet 4546b, and the xenolinguist, Elliot, scans the surface of the planet and detects the numerous architect structures scattered around the surface.
Xenolinguist? Is that just like somebody who can read and linguist to make sense to some extent? Hold on. Let me. A specialist who studies, translates, and speaks extraterrestrial or alien languages. Interesting. That's an actual thing. Oh, well, I'm assuming for fictional and science fictional things, right? Obviously, we don't read other things. Star Wars, Avatar. Okay, cool. That's cool.
Successfully convinces the captain, Diana, to land the Mercury II on planet 4546b to explore the alien bases. They bring the Mercury II closer to the planet to try and land it on the surface, and the quarantine enforcement platform, of course, is going to detect it and fires on the vessel. I'll give Diana just one thing, and it's that she knows how to pilot a fucking ship, as she makes the ship fire off flares and dump the nuclear reactor's water, which is super hot, so it confuses the enforcement platform, making it miss. Despite their distraction and evasive maneuvers, the sonic boom from the evaporating water still forces the Mercury to make an emergency landing in the Arctic spires of Sector 0. Diana takes a minute to suck her own dick.
My instincts are never wrong.
Elliot leads a team up
I like this video so much already.
to the water to find themselves some damn aliens, son, while Stephanos leads a repair of the Mercury's damaged thrusters. Whilst out on the ice, Elliot's team detects an SOS, which we will later learn is being broadcasted by Alan, who is still dormant inside that damn cube. They enter the water to follow the signal, and while in there are attacked by the wildlife. Wildlife in quotes. I personally think that they are attacked by warpers. Elliot only describes whatever attacked them as something.
They got ripped to shreds by something.
But since he is a scientist and would be able to describe a brute shark or a squid shark as being shark-like, but not a warper, which looks much more alien. Anyways, the warpers murder half his team, and he somehow
I thought it was a chili carrot. My initial assumption was chili carrot.
escapes with his life. He also notices that the Kara is infecting creatures in Sector 0, showing us that the Kara right now is planet-wide. Meanwhile, people sent out into the Arctic spires are attacked by ice worms, as described by Stephanos, who is literally just sitting on his ass back at the ship.
Real quick, I know he's about to go into some rant about this other person, but these things were so disappointing. Super cool, amazing, awesome design. They do like 20 damage. For reference, you have 100. It takes like 5 or 6 hits for these things to kill you. Because sometimes I felt like they just tickled me. And I'm like, look at this thing. It should eat me one shot.
Worms, as described by Stephanos, who is literally just sitting on his ass back at the ship, repairing the thrusters and hanging with Yasmin whilst his people are being ripped apart and slaughtered by ice worms and warpers. And if that isn't bad enough, crew members are also starting to show signs of being infected by Kara, alarming Diana, who begins making preparations for an emergency takeoff. So yeah, they had to quarantine the infected crew, who definitely died painful deaths alone in that cave shortly after.
I love the adjectives this guy uses because he is passionate about Subnautica. Like, this is somebody who made a Subnautica timeline, not just for the views and because, oh, look, popular game. they like this game. They are passionate about all the things that happened in this lore. They are very connected to it, and I like that. This looks like a Cubone skull, sorta.
Or just got killed by an ice worm. Meanwhile, the Mercury II takes off but gets targeted by the enforcement platform again. This time they aren't so lucky though, and the ship sustains a direct hit and is shot down, killing Diana, Elliot, and many other crew members.
Unfortunate.
I'm alive. Stefanos saved me. The Mercury attempted an emergency takeoff and everything seemed fine. I was helping the bridge crew with the emergency takeoff since the crew is, well, was shorthanded because of everything. I heard the sound of metal tearing and for a split second, everything was tinged bright green and unbearably hot. Then I saw daylight and I was looking down at the ocean and ice. The strongest wind I've ever felt roared in my ears, ripping through the ship. People went flying out the side of the Mercury, so much screaming and chaos. I was lucky. I had just clipped into my sea tinker. Stefanos came out of nowhere, like a malaika, an angel. I felt his rough, calloused hand grasp mine with the gentlest of urgency. It felt
It feels like I'm listening to an audiobook of one of those sex novels.
like time slowed. He said, I gotcha. Just follow me, Ella.
Don't start
I
fucking.
don't know how, but he used an emergency tether to drag me to the nuclear reactor core, the strongest bulkhead in the ship. We hit the water and everything went black. He's sleeping. I think he might have hit his head. I'm exhausted. The adrenaline has long since worn off and my body aches. I think I might have fractured the rib. I'm gonna shut my eyes for a bit. When I wake up, I'll figure this out. I'll save us.
She never woke up. I'm kidding.
Promising to save herself and Stefanos, Yasmin goes to sleep, but presumably never wakes up again. The Mercury II now lies erect in Sector 0, split into free parts that are scattered across the frozen continent.
Yeah, I think one of my big misses is because, and yet in my defense, the game is still fun to play. But between Below Zero and Subnautica, the game is still a great, fun time to play. And it's very easy to get sucked into wanting to go explore here, explore there, learn about this biome, learn about that biome. Sometimes you just forget to open up the PDA and listen to some stuff. But I loved that voice acting. That was great. I feel like I missed out a little bit too much on the audio recordings from the PDA. And Subnautica 2, I'm going to try and be better with that. I'm going to try and be better. Or even when I revisit Subnautica with mods and whatnot, maybe I try and be better with that stuff. But that game is just so enjoyable to just go swim from point A to point B to C to D to E to F to C and see giant skeletons and whatnot. It's very easy to get lost in. Part 4, the Degasi.
Continuing the theme of passing ships getting wrecked by the quarantine enforcement platform, we travel to 1 decade before the Aurora's crash, following the Degasi, a Mongolian vessel piloted by Torgal Corporation's CEO, Paul Torgal. The Torgal Corp hails from the Mongolian Independent States, a fast-growing transgov that is literally just a galactic Mongol empire. I guess in this universe, Genghis Khan was reincarnated and brought his fellow Mongolians glory by conquering the stars. Awesome. Paul is accompanied by Bart Torgal, his only legitimate son and heir to his corporation. Bart isn't interested in being a stoic venture capitalist though, and is more like me when I play Subnautica, just absolutely obsessed with alien biology. He's also accompanied by Marguerite Meta, a badass freelance mercenary Paul commissioned for extra security, plus 3 more unnamed crew members. The Degasi is on its way to a Mongolian space station in the Ariadne Arm, passes by the 4546 system towards planet 4546b when Paul makes an unscheduled detour to an uncharted planet. A stupid decision that Marguerite is quick to call him out for.
I know enough not to take unscheduled detours to uncharted planets. That's something you don't want to learn the hard way.
So same deal with the Mercury, the quarantine enforcement platform fires at the Degasi, but this time directly hits the ship instead of missing like it did of the Mercury. The Degasi crash lands on planet 4546b in the crater, killing the 3 unnamed crew members, whilst Paul, Bart and Marguerite escape in a life pod. They drift in the life pod with some ocean storms outside as described by Paul, and eventually wash up on the shores of a landmass, being held up by giant floaters when the weather clears. The survivors salvage the Degasi wreck for metal and build their first base on the floating island. Paul is ecstatic at finding this landmass with no predators and fresh food among the waves, but Marguerite isn't so sure, convinced that since they're surrounded by ocean, they have no choice but to go deeper. Meanwhile, Paul just wants to stay on the island and wait for rescue, and Bart is forced to act as the peacekeeper between the two. This is the dynamic that will define their interactions through the Degasi story.
Dude, this game is magical. If somehow you found your way into this lore react and you haven't played these games, just play it. Even if you've seen this stuff, experiencing it and being able to explore these little details of stuff like floating islands and alien technology, it's got to be played. I just had to pause because I just love to take in the sights of this game sometimes. So.
The weather soon turns evil on the trio, and a massive storm hits the floating island, flooding their grow beds. Bart wants to go out and drain the grow beds of the storm water so, they can actually eat. But Paul refuses, saying his life is much too profitable for him to risk. Marguerite scares the shit out of Paul real quick just to teach him a lesson, and Paul eventually lets Bart go back to the grow beds.
You know how to drain those grow beds of 40 tons of storm water? Or how to conjure food from the air?
I know how to prioritize.
I'm just saying, if that's so, what's your boy's life worth to you today? If tomorrow you're gonna be so hungry you start wondering what he tastes like, let him go deal with the plants.
Son, go deal with the plants.
Paul responds by threatening to leave Marguerite on the planet, which she just brushes off like a pro. Soon enough, they find an architect purple tablet on the beach of the island and surmise that they're not the first ones to come to the planet, with Marguerite correctly assuming the beings to be aliens. A few more days of rain and a landslide later, and their habitat is half buried and food washed away, making Marguerite so pissed she just hits Paul in the face. The trio then decide to relocate to the Jelly Shroom Caves, a very solid base location that has tons of materials and just looks fucking beautiful. Bart is like me when I go to the Jelly Shroom Caves and is just admiring all the glowing fish, beautiful jelly shrooms, and deadly crab snakes. Bart wants to build some equipment to study the life forms in the caves, but needs more enameled glass, which, as you all probably know by now, needs stalker teeth. Marguerite listened to the kid and went out to the kelp forest and fought a pack of stalkers for their teeth. Good job taking initiative, Marguerite. You're already doing more to get those teeth than I do. I just wait in my Seamoth for them to drop their teeth for me. Marguerite's also doing more than Paul right now, who's just sitting in the habitat being a total fucking deadbeat, trying to indoctrinate his son into his rich guy mindset. This frustrates Maida, who's sick and tired of Paul being a bourgeois bozo, and plots to leave the other two behind.
A bourgeois bozo. Oh my, I might have to add that to the vocabulary list.
A total fucking deadbeat, trying to indoctrinate his son into his rich guy mindset. This frustrates Maida, who's sick and tired of Paul being a bourgeois bozo, and plots to leave the other two behind in order to go deeper and find out what shot them down. You don't have to go that deep, I'm just saying. She eventually builds herself a Seamoth and begins exploring, trying to find a way to go deeper, as seen in the cinematic trailer. Also in the cinematic trailer, you can see a Reaper attack and destroy a Seamoth, which I now theorize to be Marge's. It makes plenty of sense that her Seamoth got destroyed, since we know she ended up staying with the bourgeois pair. So her Seamoth is wrecked by a Reaper Leviathan and she swims back to the habitat in the caves, which by now is leaking water.
The Reaper design is 10 out of 10.
By a Reaper Leviathan and she swims back to the habitat in the caves.
The Reaper design is 10 out of 10. What an awesome creature. What an iconic creature to have in your own video game.
Caves, which by now is leaking water. Bart finds something on the scanner, an alien base, likely the disease research facility in the Lost River, which makes Maida decide to convince Paul to take them deeper towards the deep Grand Reef, 500 meters below sea level. After some thinking, Paul decides to listen to Maida, and they go even deeper, building a base in the aforementioned biome. Their tensions reach an all-time high, with Paul holding himself and Bart up in the base and refusing to go outside, whilst Marguerite wants to go even deeper and find the alien structures. Bart soon discovers that all three of them are infected with the Kara bacterium, which has infected every single creature on the planet by this point. Marge decides to help him by bringing him specimens to study, but usually just brings them in either dead or dying, frustrating Bart's efforts. Marguerite eventually attacks, maims, and tows the Reaper Leviathan to the base on the back of a Cyclops. This act sends Paul over the edge, rightfully worrying that the Leviathan isn't dead or that others might follow it. Paul, infuriated with Maida, wants her off the sea base, whilst Bart tries to mediate the argument and tell them that they're both wrong, that Paul's being too careful and Maida's being too reckless by just slaughtering all the creatures. But the two don't budge. Bart is done with this shit and decides to just go outside, with Paul yelling at him to bring his profitable ass back inside. Suddenly, a second Reaper Leviathan arrives at the deep Grand Reef and approaches the base, alarming Marguerite. The Reaper attacks the base and tears a hole clear through the reinforced hull, throwing Paul out of the base.
I don't think there is an actual Reaper at the Grand Reef, right? I think the only thing is the Ghost Leviathans that are there. If I had to go through another Reaper on my way to the Grand Reef, I probably would have not gone to the Lost River anywhere near as much. Let's releasing that again. One second. Look at this, dude. Look at this shot. Magical wallpapers.
The Reaper attacks the base and tears a hole clear through the reinforced hull, throwing Paul out of the base.
Bye, Paul.
Came out of nowhere. An alien kraken, bigger than a cyclops. Tore a hole clear through the reinforced hull. I barely got my breather in time. I told her. I said others would come. The rupture threw me clear of the habitat, and the monster turned and bore down on me. Just as its tentacles came within reach, Maida appeared out of nowhere. She had a sea glide in one hand, a jagged piece of scrap metal in the other. She meant to butcher that beast or die trying. The last I saw her, she had the metal lodged in its neck as the monster did its best to shake her, contorting off into the darkness.
What a badass.
I'm certain she got her wish, one way or another. Then I thought I saw a light deep below me. I hoped maybe Bart had swum clear. I followed it. Now I wonder whether I saw anything at all. My oxygen is low. The habitat is gone. I can't see the sky. Something surely has the scent of my blood.
Maida continued to fight the creature and eventually...
What a crazy line towards the end. Like, I know it's not, it's just such a great story, man. The scent of my
Surely
blood.
has the scent of my blood.
Something surely has the scent of my
Maida-
blood. Like, not like I'm gonna die, or just like, you know what? I understand this. I understand exactly where I'm at. Oh.
continued to fight the creature and eventually killed it. She will eventually ride its corpse all the way across the open ocean towards Sector 0, where she will continue to survive for the next decade. Meanwhile, Bart managed to swim clear of the chaos and got back to the surface. He continued his efforts to make a cure for the Kara, building a new base closer to the shallows and trying to make friends with a peeper. The Kara continued to take hold of him, however, scaring his new friend, and he's even starting to see visions now, which many now theorize to be the Sea Emperor trying to communicate with him. Bart eventually goes back to the floating island and records one final log.
This is the first time I've seen sunlight in months. After all that time in the deep, I'd been dreaming of it. Now that I'm back here, I'm finding it hard to enjoy alone. Father was right. We should never have left this place. We shouldn't have gone so deep. They do not want us down there. Despite my best efforts, ill health is taking hold of me. Marguerite and Father are now part of the ecosystem of this incredible planet. It's reassuring to know that when I go, I'll join them.
The disrespect to Marguerite after seeing her slay and Reaper. You think she's just gone that easy? No.
Well then, well, there's always the view.
That is one recording that I did hear. Yo, go me, lore guy. Part 5. Subnautica. I still don't know what
We cut to
Subnautica
one
means.
decade after the crash of the Degasi, where the Alterra Corporation has launched the Aurora, their newest, snazziest, fanciest capital starship with a mission to build a phase gate in the Ariadne Arm. The ship is also secretly tasked with locating and rescuing the crew of the Degasi, and as such is planned to make a gravity slingshot maneuver around planet 4546b and locate the Degasi using its advanced scanning suite. Alterra wants to locate and rescue the crew in order to aid its diplomatic negotiations with the Mongolian states, and brought along a Mongolian diplomat named Yoki Kasar. With these two missions, the Aurora sets off from Alterra space bound for the Ariadne Arm. 13 months post-launch, the Aurora has reached the 4546 solar system, performing a gravity slingshot maneuver around planet 4546b in order to locate the Degasi. The Aurora is fired at and struck on its starboard side by the quarantine enforcement platform's laser. This sends the Aurora crashing towards the planet, but through the expert piloting skills of the ship's captain, Hollister, he is able to make her take a controlled descent towards the crater. Meanwhile, life pods 1 through 25 were successfully launched from the ship, whilst pods 26 through 50 were too damaged to be launched. 10 life pods make it to the crater in relatively shallow waters, whilst the others crash in open ocean, their occupants presumably slaughtered by packs
Just
of ghost
ghosts.
leviathans.
That's crazy.
Captain Hollister, in an attempt to save his crew from certain death, orders Second Officer Keene to regroup the crew at the floating island, and intentionally crashes the ship into the crater in order to leave the ship in one piece, so his crew can contact Alterra on his long-range radio. Captain Hollister refuses to evacuate evacuate and dies as the Aurora crashes into the shallow sections of the crater, giving his life so his crew could have a chance to live. Way to do what's necessary, Captain. We salute you. But his efforts were for the most part in vain, as 9 of the 10 life pods that made it to the crater will end up being destroyed, with their occupants getting killed by the wildlife. Life pod 5, meanwhile, landed in the safe shallows, a relatively safe region of the crater made up of vibrant coral reefs.
Except for that one stalker who got me maybe 10-15 seconds into jumping into the water. Fuck that stalker. We actually named him Schmeat, for the record. If you haven't seen my playthroughs, they're a good time. I will say the readings, or like the PDA entries of all the other life pods, they got really bad luck. I mean, the amount of them that were near Reapers are just such deep into the water, where it was either Ghost or the Sand Sharks or the I forget the electric ones. I can't remember what the hell they're actually called. The electric ones that like shark. Dude, they were so unlucky. Oh my gosh. The number 5.
Pod 5 contained Riley Robinson, the non-essential systems maintenance chief of the Aurora. When the pod jettisoned, Riley was hit in the face by a metal panel that got detached and flown off into his face. Riley was unconscious whilst all the other crew members of the Aurora met their ends. Riley came to while a massive fire was blazing inside his life pod. He quickly put it out, and his PDA rebooted in emergency mode, a mode designed to keep him alive on 4546B until rescue. Riley disembarked the life pod whilst the PDA informed him that no humans were left alive aboard the Aurora. Riley descended into the depths and began constructing various tools and equipment to aid in his fight for survival, whilst living off the planet by eating various fish and getting water from bladderfish. After around a week, the Aurora experiences a quantum detonation of the drive core, blowing massive parts of the ship's wreckage to smithereens. Riley intercepts the distress signals from the now destroyed life pods and salvages blueprints and materials from many of them whilst learning of the fates of the occupants. He also gets contacted by the trading vessel Sunbeam, which is currently out on the far side of the 4546 system. They detected the Aurora's automatic distress signal but are confused on whether or not the ship still requires assistance due to not getting a response. Avery Quinn, the ship's captain, decides to try to contact the ill-fated vessel again later. The Sunbeam eventually detects the debris field of the Aurora around 4546B, realizing the gravity of the situation. Avery charts a course for the planet and tells Riley that they will rescue him. Meanwhile, Riley continues to go about surviving on the planet, constructing a Seamoth at first, and bigger, more expensive vehicles like the Cyclops and the Prawn Suit. Riley also begins building his own sea base in the crater. The Sunbeam eventually arrives at 4546B and informs Riley they will be landing at a landmass in the northern regions of the crater. When Riley arrives at the island, he lays eyes upon the quarantine enforcement platform, which then activates and fires at the Sunbeam as it makes its way towards the surface.
This is one of the coolest things. I missed all the good explosions, being honest with you. I just missed the good explosions. I didn't even think of actually being at the planet at the wait time. I just...
Survivor, we see you. Man, I don't know how you held out down there. We broke an atmosphere, and we're descending towards the landing site.
What a crazy...
Is that a building down there?
Gun.
What do you mean you can't identify it? Hold on. No turning back now. Positions, everyone. Touching down in 10, 9, 8.
It's coming from the building?
Change course. Set thrusters to full.
God! Jesus! What a sick explosion. I know they told me not to be late. But I mean, I was late, so I didn't get to see that. At least you guys died a cool death, you know? By alien giant laser cannon. I want to go out that way.
After the destruction of the Sunbeam, Riley explores the QEP and attempts to deactivate the facility from its control room, but discovers that he's infected with the Kara bacterium and that infected individuals cannot disable the weapon. Realizing now that he is infected with an alien bacterium, Riley explores the Aurora, gets the blueprint for a Neptune escape rocket that Alterra sent to the ship's computer for him, and repairs its blown drive core before descending deeper in search of answers. He arrives at the Lost River, an extensive cave system filled with acidic brine pools, which also contains the disease research facility, where he learns of the Warpers and realizes that they are hunting him. With his infection becoming more severe and forming glowing green cysts on his skin, Riley descends deeper into the heart of the volcanic crater, where he learns of the now 2,600-year-old Sea Emperor Leviathan and where it's holed up at. He dodges sea dragons and arrives at the primary containment facility and follows the Sea Emperor's given instructions to hatch her remaining 5 eggs. Riley gains the blueprint for the Sea Emperor's hatching enzymes from the massive Leviathan, and uses the facility's on-site warp gates to collect all of the needed ingredients before fabricating them.
They're such cute little things. I did go back and play this game a little bit just to get some thumbnails, and I realized that they do actually just swim out in the open world. Like, they're just out there. One was near the back of the Aurora. I mean, okay, maybe not where the other Reaper's at, just for the record, but one, it's further away from where that Reaper's at. But they just float around throughout the entire map. It's such a cool thing, and they're much bigger than what they are here as well. I would say probably like 3 times the size. Scared me initially. But yeah, but they're just hanging out. It's a really cool feature to add to the end game. Super cool, super cool. Especially because now they can cure the planet. Just being out there. Huh, little guys. Coochie-coo. Oh, I love them so much. R.I.P. Sea Empress.
My young are swimming for the shallows. I thank you. Their freedom is my end. What will it be like, I wonder, to go to sleep and never wake up?
Damn.
Perhaps next we meet, I will be an ocean current, carrying seeds to a new land. Or a creature so small, it sees the gaps between the grains of sand. Farewell, friend.
What a great speech.
Riley then comes in contact with the stable enzyme 42, which cures his infection and gets rid of the glowing green cysts. The Sea Emperors will eventually grow up and spread enzyme 42 across the planet, ending the Kara outbreak on 4546b. He then disables the QEP once and for all and constructs the Neptune escape rocket. Riley departs planet 4546b towards the nearest phase gate. Upon arriving, Riley is informed by Alterra that before landing he must pay his outstanding balance of 1 trillion credits. Also upon his return to Alterra, Riley probably made his odds of landing better by informing Alterra of what he found on the planet, which piques Alterra's interest in the uncharted ocean world. What happens to Riley afterwards is currently unknown, although I personally think Alterra executed him to keep their discoveries a secret.
Why? Why do you think that? I mean, I know the secrets, but like, why would they? It's crazy. What? I know you was talking about the secrets. But we gotta toss a little more evidence for that one, don't we? Like, are the secrets that important? Fuck, goddamn. Part 6, Subnautica Below Zero. Just finished that playthrough. It was a great time. Love the game. Couple things.
Alterra soon returns to 4546b, and with the enforcement platform now disabled and the Kara outbreak contained, they establish a permanent presence on the surface of the planet. Alterra constructs several sea bases in both Sector 0 and presumably the crater as well. I just don't see them overlooking that extremely important region. It's also possible that they built bases elsewhere on the planet, although nobody knows for sure. In Sector 0 in particular, Alterra constructs Outpost 0 for studying an architect base very close by, which is the Phase Gate base, built a station to act as Sector 0's headquarters, and Phi Robotics, a robotics laboratory in the glacial basin. Alterra hires a bunch of people to be deployed at Sector 0, and the most important one being Fred. Alterra also hires Samantha Ayu, a roboticist whose sister Robin Ayu is very distrustful of the corporate trans government due to Alterra buying out the research company she works for.
Okay, see, this is where my Below Zero knowledge kind of fails me. Is I do know a decent amount about Alan, the reason the outbreak happened, his contribution to that, what went wrong in all those little scenarios. The inner battle between all the people that were there for Alterra and I guess the backstabbing that was happening, the back and forth between different scientists and why bases kind of fell apart, what happened to Sister, that's where it kind of fails me a little bit. I'm definitely, this is where we lock in, Chad.
Still hopes her sister is happy for her though, as she ships out to planet 4546b. While there, she develops a spy pangling, a robotic drone that replicates the appearance of local creatures called panglings. She also gets close to the rest of her group, the Frost Pack or whatever. She also begins to send her spy panglings to watch none other than Marguerite Maida, who has been surviving and thriving in Sector 0. Not all is well in Sector 0, however, as Fred, while out in his sea truck, arrives at a glacier to begin walking over to a base on the ice. While there, he's attacked by a pair of snowstalkers and falls into a hole leading to a cave containing the corpse of a gigantic frozen leviathan.
Shit.
And you guessed it, the creature is...
Wait, what are these cinematics? I need to see these cinematics, I guess. Oh my goodness.
containing the corpse of a gigantic...
Dude, what a horrifying image. Holy hell. I need to watch these cinematics.
frozen leviathan. And you guessed it, the creature is infected with Kara and has still active Kara pustules feeding off the dead creature. Fred reports this back to Alterra, who takes a lot of interest in the dead animal and seals off the cave to begin extracting Kara for, science. Alterra constructs the Omega Lab in the Lily Pad Islands to begin testing and mutating the Kara bacterium. They bring in head biologist Danielle Valenti, who says that the results are promising, that the Kara could give birth to life-saving treatments and a better understanding of the planet. Meanwhile, Fred confides to Samantha that he found a frozen leviathan that's infected with the Kara. She gets her confirmation, however, by interrogating one of the lab personnel who admits that they're mutating the Kara. Sam is understandably uncomfortable with Alterra trying to mutate the bacterium and worries that it could get out and cause a galactic outbreak of Kara or end up as a bioweapon in the wrong hands. She starts out by complaining to her higher-ups that she feels unsafe, but they just get annoyed with her and send her off to Outpost Zero, which is basically timeout for the employees in this sector. After they send her off to the outpost, she gets desperate. She first records a final message to Robin telling her everything that happened, then somehow acquires Enzyme 42 and manufactures a cure to the Kara? Pretty sure you have to go across the planet for that, Sam, but fuck it, I guess we need plot convenience. She stashes it in a cave, but then ends up meeting with Marguerite Maida, telling her of what's happening and what she's planning. Marge calls her out by saying she's thinking too small, and that she also has to seal off the entire cave by bombing it with explosives that she made for fishing. Marge decides to also attack the Omega Lab at the same time, so nobody can restart Alterra's research. Sam heads off towards the Leviathan site and begins setting up explosives around the perimeter of the cave, alarming Parvin, who was patrolling the site. Sam sets off the explosives, collapsing the cave and
What are
of the cave, alarming Parvin, who...
Just realized I never once brought up Parvin. Sorry, not sure who Parvin is. He's going to tell us right now. Okay, so from what I'm getting, this typical big pharma company or big whatever company wants to do research that is inherently dangerous or unethical because it could quite literally ruin this planet again. The disease that the enzyme actually cures, the enzyme, the Leviathans, the Sea Empress Leviathan and her babies cure. You modify that to where that no longer is curable by the enzyme. And then all of a sudden, worldwide outbreak, everything's dying, everybody suffers. Okay, so that's where this is going. Disagreements in between. Gotcha. Just gotta make sure I'm getting this.
Was patrolling the site. Sam sets off the explosives, collapsing the cave and killing both her and Parvin. Alright, so while Sam...
Wait, Sam killed herself?
Site and begins setting up explosives around the perimeter of the cave, alarming Parvin, who was patrolling the site. Sam sets off the explosives, collapsing the cave and killing both her and Parvin. Alright, so while Sam died as a result of pure negligence, Marguerite Maida is a pro and successfully attacks and destroys Omega Lab by ramming it with a sea truck and blowing the main labs up, destroying the Kara bacterium in Omega Lab. After this, Alterra evacuates and sends out a message to Robin informing her of her sister Sam's demise. When Alterra actually rightfully blames her death on negligence, Robin remains unconvinced and sets out to find out what really happened. Robin links up with one of her Xenoworks buddies, Cal or something, who takes her to planet 4546b on a spaceship, which you can see in the game's loading screen.
The cutest thing right here. The loading screen being a little penguin.
Takes her to planet 4546b on a spaceship, which you can see in the game's loading screen. Promising to find her way back, Robin takes off in a shuttle with a life pod attached to its back towards 4546b during a huge meteor shower, trailing one of the meteors in order to avoid detection from Alterra. This doesn't work out, obviously, and Robin's shuttle gets knocked around by the meteor, detaching her life pod and crashing into Sector 0. Robin quickly escapes the burning shuttle and makes it to her life pod in the shallow regions of Sector 0, where she immediately begins her search by building tools and equipment and heading towards the now abandoned Delta Station. Now you may be wondering, where the fuck has Alan been all this time? Don't worry, he's been chilling in his big floating storage cube this entire time. But alas, his cube is running out of power, so he begins broadcasting an SOS in order to attract somebody's attention. It's this SOS that Robin picks up whilst traveling through the twisty ridges. Robin...
I don't even think... did I get this SOS? I think I just stumbled across this place accidentally. I looked for a cool base to set up shop, built that base, and then I was like, oh, there's a lot of stuff beneath us. And then I just went down. There was I don't think there was anything else that led me there. I got super lucky early on, but what an amazing biome to put a base in.
Will eventually make her way down to Alan's sanctuary cache, where she comes into contact with the last architect. Alan tells Robin that he has hours to live, prompting Robin to attempt to download his consciousness on her PDA. However, the architect facility actually detected hospitable capacity in her brain instead, a fact Robin realizes just a bit too late.
What's happening?
That's such a cool animation. Holy shit. Holy hell.
Transfer complete.
I think my favorite part about the Below Zero is they really showed us what the aliens are capable across like all the different animations throughout the game. But regular Subnautica is more about, hey, this is a really cool planet. Look at all the cool shit the planet has to offer. You get a cool couple explosions here and there, but Below Zero is like, hey, this is a really cool species. Look what they got going. This is fucking awesome.
How do you feel?
Why do you sound like you're inside my head?
The facility identified hospitable capacity within your cerebral cortex.
You are in my head? I offered you my PDA! Get out!
Oh no. Does your kind perceive a boundary between cybernetic and organic components?
My mind is not a component!
You sound angry. We will allow you a moment to process.
Don't you go silent on me. Hello? This isn't happening. This is not happening. That's the explanation. It's not happening.
Alan
Denial.
eventually returns and tells Robin that she must find and scan several architect body parts spread throughout the sector. With this goal in mind, along with her goal to find out what happened to her sister, Robin descends deeper into the Arctic waters. Robin will soon encounter Marguerite Maida while heading to Delta Station, who believes her to be an Alterra employee and warns her to stay away, disappearing as quickly as she arrived and not offering Robin any negotiations. Robin arrives at Delta Station and acquires a map of all the Alterra buildings in Sector 0, setting her sights onto Phi Robotics where her sister worked. Robin eventually wanders into Marguerite's kick-ass sea base, where she casually keeps a whole ass Reaper skull as a trophy. Fuck yeah, dude. Marguerite doesn't care about anything Robin says though, and says that she should just go somewhere else and disable Architect's communications tower instead. Robin follows Marge's instructions and disables the communications tower, making Marge invite her over to her greenhouse, where she gives her some fruit and information about Sam, where Robin learns of Omega Lab's destruction and Sam's plan to destroy the frozen Leviathan. She also learns of Sam's cure being stashed in a cave. Robin heads off towards the glacial basin to complete her sister's work, exploring Phi Robotics and using her own spy pingling that she fabricated to get the Kara cure from a cave. Using this, she completes Sam's work and cures the frozen Leviathan. That's cool and all, but I think it's finally time we build Alan a new body. With the alien in her head leading her towards his body parts, Robin travels throughout Sector 0, scanning all of the required body parts and acquiring their blueprints. Alan finally leads her down through a crystalline cave system towards the Fabricator Base, a standard medical facility the architects use to construct new storage media. Robin by now has grown suspicious of her new alien friend though, who is dodging her questions about what really happened on 4546B. Robin finally constructs all of the needed body parts and begins fabricating the body. When his body is complete, Robin transfers his consciousness to his new body, and after taking control of it, Alan tells Robin that the escape of the bacteria was his fault, since he obeyed his directive and caused the Sea Dragon to destroy the disease research facility. Despite this revelation, Robin still commits to helping Alan, who is now preparing to return to the Architect homeworld and make amends for his mistakes.
Again, I think we can cut him slack because he did fuck up, but people were going to die regardless. Yes, he ruined the best chances, but it was only in hopes of increasing their odds of survival against this very, very high death rate. Well, I don't know what the word, I don't know, how would you describe that for a disease? I'm not smart enough for this. High death rate infection.
Robin commits to joining Alan since she doesn't have another ride, and Alan tells her to meet him at the phase gate facility. When she arrives, he makes the final preparations and they go through a warp gate to another part of the facility, where Alan opens the phase gate in what is probably the coolest fucking sequence in all of Below Zero.
Yes,
Alan,
absolutely.
needing to prepare the ship, enlists Robin's help in moving the energy mast into place, granting her control of 4 Architect arms. Robin accomplishes this, but not without a few mishaps, one of which almost kills her. But she gets the job done, returns to Alan, and watches as he fabricates the Architect ship. Afterwards, Robin comes into the ship. She realizes Alan has been fully integrated with the ship in order to pilot it, and tells him that she's ready to depart.
Insane to just... This is such one of the coolest sequences of any games ever. It is gorgeous. Music as well.
What will we find when we get there?
If I am the last of my kind, I will experience the sorrow of 10,000 souls dimming.
Ten out of 10 cutscene. 10
if they
out of 10
survived?
cutscene.
With you, I am ready to face whatever awaits.
Subnautica Below Zero.
And that's the Subnautica timeline done. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it.
Well, as officiate for the Subnautica timeline, and it was definitely very much needed for me piecing together, I guess, every little bit of all the logs that I ever read throughout the game, because there were a lot of things that I did read. There were a lot of voice lines that I did hear. But ultimately, it is hard to piece it all into a specific chronological order based off of how the game is played, right? Because there are ways to get to the very end game of stuff very fast, and there's ways that you'll bypass little things early on that are just hiding under a cave or in a live pod that you might have missed a few times. So thank you again, La Piece. This is a very good video, especially when it came to the part of explaining why Below Zero and the scientists of Alterra, why they were all pitted against each other, or not all, but a lot of them had their misunderstandings with each other, or their disagreements, or in general the stuff that led Sam to her own demise, which I guess was her own bomb. I think I asked that in the last video of my playthroughs. If you haven't checked out my playthroughs by now, they were a fun time. Go check them out. But knowing about Sam's death actually was a really big concern of mine. So we finally figured some stuff out, and we're gonna go back and play some of the modded Subnautica stuff. I believe we have Return of the Ancients. I believe it's called the Red Plague as well. So there are quite a few things that we still get to discover or still get to check out in the universe of Subnautica, even if they're not canon to the lore themselves. While we play these games, there's probably some of the PDAs and other voice lines that we can listen to and find some more things on our own as well. If you guys enjoy the content, please consider leaving a like and a comment on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Big shout out to the members of the community. We got no chatters up today because this is an offline recording, but the extra support you guys provide means oh so very much to me. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Peace.